There's big fights in boxing, and then there's fights that have changed human history.
Lewis's left cheek, and Lewis is down. Lewis is down, hanging to the rope, hanging badly.
On the surface, Joe Louis versus Max Schmeling was two elite heavyweights going head to head. But what happened in the ring in 1936 on the brink of social chaos and world war sent shockwaves across continents. In one of the most pivotal times in human history, nevermore did the boxing heavyweight championship represent far more than just a title. And the world truly stopped and watched. I'm Bayliun, and this is the story of Max Schmeling versus Joe Louis, the boxing fight that changed history. Both Joe Louis and Schmeling were already renowned heavyweights by the 1930s. Joe Louis, if you've somehow not heard the name in boxing history, was nicknamed the Brown Bomber and came on the scene a young, undefeated American knockout artist in an America still deeply segregated. Where other black athletes at the time, like legendary boxer Jack Johnson, had been shunned by the press, Louis was embraced and marketed as an undefeated star. He reached 27-0 with 23 KOs, starching contenders and ex-champions. He was among the celebrity elite of the era, going to Hollywood parties and even appearing in movies. Max Schmeling, on the other hand, was a former world champion from Germany, and although he'd been a great fighter, by 1936 he was seen by most boxing pundits as an older guy, and by many past his prime. But Germany at the time were using athletes as a world stage to project national superiority. Athletic success was more than just sport. It was part of their propaganda. And Schmeling, whether he wanted to or not, became a vessel for that ambition. A man named Mike Jacobs was responsible for booking Joe Louis at the time, and seeing as how there was no immediate path to the heavyweight title, he saw Schmeling as the perfect matchup. A credible name that once held a title back in 1932, a safe opponent for the unstoppable Louis, but also with international tensions rising, he knew it generated massive interest on both sides of the Atlantic. Apparently, Schmeling even agreed to most of the purse and promotional control going to Louis's promoters. Everyone saw it as one of those low-risk, high-reward opportunities. Everyone except Schmeling, who took the fight very seriously. He opened as a 10-1 underdog, but in secret had been obsessively studying tapes of Louis's fights looking for a weakness, and apparently he found one, telling reporters famously that he saw something, a hole in the defense of the undefeated phenom.
This is Howard Claney speaking, and in a moment we will present a ringside blow-by-blow description of the Louis Schmeling fight.
On June 19, 1936, the Yankee Stadium filled with over 45,000 spectators as people from Europe and the US crowded to see this culturally significant moment. Louis standing for the US and democracy, and Schmeling for the German propaganda regime and national superiority, whether he wanted to or not.
There's no time in this swiftly moving drama to broadcast who's who in the Yankee Stadium. It's an amazing cross-section of America, rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief, doctor, lawyer, merchant, chief.
Millions tuned in to listen on radio as the bell sounded.
Now the best of luck to the both of you, and shake hands now, and come out protecting yourself against that. Wait a minute.
And in about 5 seconds the fight will be on. They're twisting in the corners. There's the bell, and they step out, both men cautiously.
Louis came out aggressive in the early round, saw both men probing with their jab and trading hooks, and Louis doubling up on his lead hand.
Rolled the blow and came in with the left of his own. Then Louis hooked the hard left to the body and missed with the right. He had colored Schmeling's eyes just a trifle.
Schmeling tried covering more distance with his shots to get past the jab stalemate, but Louis stuck to his lead hand and started firing combos on the inside as well. It was obvious though Schmeling was looking for something, waiting on the back foot. But Louis was pressuring, pulling shots and countering on the inside. Schmeling was still waiting, and he flashed his right hand as the round ended.
Schmeling had a left to the face, this with a left hand at the tail. Schmeling was trying to come through with a right to the body, but he pulled the blow up halfway and it didn't land.
As the fourth round started, Louis came forward again with the jab, but as you can see, was throwing out both his hands to control the distance. But this was exactly what Schmeling had seen on tape and was the moment he was waiting for. In a shocking swing, the underdog was battering the undefeated Louis, who desperately survived the rest of the round.
His head, Schmeling has sent Louis down. No, Louis is down. He did not wait for the count. He got up on the count of 2.
Now the bell and Clem.
They came out slow. Louis slower than I've ever seen him come. Max is eager. We're going into the 7th round.
But Louis wasn't about to quit. He went back in toe-to-toe and started digging hard to the German's body.
Lewis gains confidence every time he gets over one of those left hooks to the body, and it looks to me like Blackburn has finally got it into Lewis's head to keep centering on left hooks to the body to open this fellow up and make him keep back to that right hand.
And when he was on the inside, away from that long right hand, he was still going to work. It was a great recovery from Lewis, whose shots seemed to be breaking through the guard of Max. The 9th round started, the crowd already having witnessed an incredible back and forth fight with cultural stakes hanging in the balance, and Schmeling was still looking for that right hand. But he'd taken punishment of his own, and his eye was beginning to swell badly.
Possibly the next round, and Lewis tries with a left to the face and then misses with a right. Schmeling backs away and misses with a left.
It didn't stop that right hand from coming out once again though. Lewis was getting cracked, the damage was adding up, and he started to look wobbly on his feet as the round ended. At this point, the fight had the entire stadium on its feet. It had been close, but the underdog had started to run away with it, and Lewis needed to do something big to pull out the win.
Right now, most of the boys around the edge of the ring have got Schmeling credited with 6 rounds, Lewis with 3 and 1 round even.
Even the commentators could tell Joe was starting to fade.
As one of the poorest blows I've ever seen the man throw, and Schmeling then threw a right hand that missed.
Schmeling stayed switched on, and once again when Lewis's hand came out to frame, he blasted him with the straight right. By the 12th round, the fight had started to take its toll on both men, and it was all heart from here on out. Lewis was sending out jabs on that swollen eye. But in a final moment of execution, Schmeling saw his moment once more, the hands came away, and he cracked Lewis, looking to destroy him. The 10-1 underdog had the undefeated juggernaut on the ropes, and surely he could take no more. The punishment was being unloaded, but Lewis was still standing. Impossibly, Schmeling had pulled off the upset in a win that swept the entire globe.
And Lewis is down. Lewis is down, hanging to the rope, hanging badly.
Also, immediately running over to pick up Lewis off the canvas. It was one of the biggest boxing upsets in history at the time, a result that shocked the sporting world. As one newspaper put it, Lewis suddenly looked like just an ordinary boxer. Schmeling, for his part, was hailed for his brilliant tactics and courage, and at age 30 he had resurrected his career with a performance for the ages. The aftermath of the 1936 fight reverberated far beyond the boxing ring though. In the United States, Lewis's loss was a crushing blow to the people and communities that had idolized him as this symbol of hope and pride. And by contrast, Max Schmeling returned to Germany as a national hero. He was greeted with accolades, and his victory was seized upon by elements of the German government as proof of their ideology. Despite Schmeling's triumph, he was denied a title shot at the reigning heavyweight champion, the American Cinderella Man, James J. Braddock. Even as a champion now though, Lewis felt his legacy was incomplete. He had avenged every other challenger in the ring, winning 7 fights since the Schmeling fight. But he said after winning the title, "I ain't no champion till I beat Schmeling." Both men publicly called for the rematch, and demand only grew and grew as equally tensions between the United States and Germany and the rest of the world grew and grew, until the rematch built into something more than a prize fight. It was even more than the first, a symbolic battle between nations and ideals. In 1938, on June 22nd, the rematch was finally booked in what was the biggest boxing fight in history, a gate of over $1 million, which works out to around $22 million by today's standards. Even now, that's still up there with the top 5 gates of all time.
The Modern Martial Artist is switching to YouTube memberships, putting all of our exclusive perks in one place for our most important sponsor, you. We need your support to continue creating content about the sports we love, and that's why we're excited to offer even more through YouTube memberships. The team is bringing you early video access and 2 exclusives each month. So, if you like what we do and want to see more, become a channel member today.
70,000 fans packed into the Yankee Stadium. Even the US President Franklin D. Roosevelt invited Lewis to the White House before the fight, apparently even telling Joe, "We need those muscles for democracy." Schmeling, for his part, insisted he was just a boxer, not a political pawn. But still, he understood that in the eyes of many, he represented his country's cause in that moment. It was, without a doubt, the fight of the decade.
This is the feature attraction. 15 rounds for the World's Heavyweight Championship.
Joe came out as before, setting things up behind his double jab. Under this aggressive start, every fake from Lewis had Schmeling reacting as he sat in the same stance, leaning back waiting to counter and pull out of range, and Lewis anticipated this perfectly and threw a leaping hook. Then, while under pressure and trying to defend early, Lewis was crashing on the inside and smashing Max with heavy hooks from the get-go. And you can even see as Schmeling tried to set up the same counter right, Lewis was aware, pulling out of range. Then, when Max stepped forward, Schmeling was getting pieced up early, and as he leant on Joe toe-to-toe, he only ate more punishment.
Joe is deadly serious in there.
As he desperately tried to pull out of range, the power of Lewis just crushed him. In less than 2 minutes, the German was hanging onto the ropes for dear life, the concept of intelligent defense completely thrown out the window. The ref stepped in as Schmeling looked around like he didn't know where he was, only for Lewis to come crashing back at him. Down went Schmeling, but somehow he shook it off, immediately rising to his feet. More punishment from Lewis as Max refused to quit until
A crushing right explodes off Schmeling's jaw, and Max goes down for the third time.
Schmeling valiantly tried again to return to his feet, but it was over. After 2 years of build-up and all the political charge, the fight had ended in the first round. But the Lewis-Schmeling saga did not end in the ring. Its impact resonated for years to come. In the United States, Joe Louis's triumph was celebrated nationwide, especially among Black Americans who saw this victory as a symbol of pride and hope. Beyond boxing and the political state of the world, however, the Lewis-Schmeling rivalry forged an unlikely lifelong friendship. In the years after World War II, the two former foes often visited each other and reminisced. Schmeling, who was never actually a supporter of the German regime at the time, showed his respect and generosity towards Lewis, who he apparently even helped financially when the former champion fell on hard times. And in 1981, when Joe Louis passed away, Max quietly paid for his old rival's funeral and even served as a pallbearer. Some historians often cite the Lewis-Schmeling rematch as one of the most significant sporting events of the 20th century. Truly a moment where sport and politics collided on a global stage. And this fight isn't just a reminder of what the heavyweight championship can mean to so many different people, to the balance of the world. It also stands as an incredible reminder that sportsmanship and mutual respect can transcend even the deepest cultural and political divisions. Thanks for listening, guys.